there is something that Krishna spent a lot of time discussing last time. Yes, Nitai Charan Prabhu.
So those who surrender, those who do not surrender, their
Yes.
attributes.
Yes, the four types of people who surrender to Krishna and thus cross the modes of material nature, the ocean of the modes of material nature, and the four types of people who do not surrender to Krishna and therefore do not cross it. Those who do surrender and those who do not. And so now we are in part two, and in this one, Krishna uh, talks about who does surrender. He focuses on these four types of people, and um, and then talks about which one is the best of the four. So I believe this is where we are starting from this time. Anyone wants to correct me if I generally forget where we end, but I think this is where we're starting from.
Prabhu, we did this
We
last time.
finished this, Prabhuji.
We
I
did
think
Uh,
this.
we finished, Prabhu. We were thinking, how everybody is actually, praying, why everybody is surrendering to Krishna.
Ah,
I
okay.
mean,
till 7.25, Prabhuji, you did. 7.25.
7.2. Okay. So we do the demigods? I thought we didn't do the demigods.
No, we didn't.
no, Prabhuji.
So we finished here with these four types of people. That's yeah, I remember, but in terms of slides, I was off. So now this time we will start with this is the context. So Krishna at the end says that the jnani is the best of the four, right? The four types of people who do surrender to Krishna are the artha, artharthi, jigyasu, and jnani. Those who want relief from distress, those who want money or opulence, those are inquisitive, and those who are wise. Now, among those who are wise, the one who is a devotee is even more the best. They are the absolute best. And here it's Prabhupada is quoting the definition of pure devotional service, that in fact, pure devotional service is even beyond jnana and karma. And this is the platform of pure bhakti. And the best among the jnanis is Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samhatma Sudurlabha. The best among them says that Vasudev, Krishna, is everything, Sarvamiti, they are the best. They finally become the pure devotees, which is very, very rare, right? So that is the highest level of a devotee. In 718, Krishna says that the jnani is in knowledge, but the devotees, they're just like my own self. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls because he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. So there's many types of jnanis, and the highest form of knowledge is what type of knowledge? It's realized knowledge. It's experienced knowledge. So in one way, a devotee is also jnani. Why? Because the devotee is the one who actually knows Krishna. Jnana means to know, right? And the greatest jnani is one who not just understands intellectually, but has actually realized through the depths of their hearts, this is Krishna, this is the ultimate. The jnani is like the Lord, but the devotee is deeper. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 9.468, the Lord says, Sadhavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tvaham madanyate na jananti naham tebhyo managapi sadhavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tvaham mad anyate na jananti naham tebhyo managapi. The devotees are always in my heart, and I am always in the hearts of the devotees. The devotee does not know anything beyond me, and I also cannot forget the devotee. There is a very intimate relationship between me and the pure devotees. Pure devotees in full knowledge are never out of spiritual touch, and therefore they are very much dear to me. See, So the devotee actually know Krishna, Jananti, and they're actually in touch with Krishna. So now, having said this, this leads us now to the next topic, is what to do with our material desires. Well, what if we're not a pure devotee and we have material desires? And this question comes up very often. The Lord says that all are magnanimous, because anyone who comes to the Lord for any purpose is called a Mahatma, a great soul. The devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there's an exchange of affection. So, we gave the example, I think, last time, that children, they come to their parents asking for things. Sometimes that's the only time they remember their parents, is when they need things. But still, it's considered an exchange of affection, even though they're not coming at that moment out of pure love, but at least they're coming to the parents. And they know that their parents are the providers, and that's why they're coming and asking. But they also love their parents a lot, and they also want some things. So it's the same thing, that the people who at least surrender to Krishna, for their material benefits, are still accepted by the Lord because there's an exchange of affection there. And they're called Mahatmas. For any purpose is a Mahatma. So how special devotees are. How special, everyone, all the devotees of the Lord are, regardless even the motivations due to which they are coming to Krishna. And of course, if one comes with a pure motivation, only out of love for Krishna, is a bhakta, then that is the best. He is Paramahansa, the greatest Mahatma. But for any purpose, that is the thing to do. So this is the famous verse that we're discussing, that even if one has material desires, or if one does not have material desires, one who engages in tivrena bhakti yogena, intense devotional service, not just armchair devotional service, but striving for Krishna's bhakti, they become purified. Yajeta purusham param. So such a person gets purified by the strength of bhakti. So now, here Krishna is bringing into even more focus that why these four people, even if they have material desires and they're coming to Krishna for material desires, why are they special? Why are they still Mahatmas? Because the majority of people, even when they want something selfish, they don't come to God for it. They don't come to Krishna for it. But what do? They go to some great person or demigod in this world to fulfill their desires. Right? Like the pure devotee kids, if they're wanting something, they'll pray to Krishna. Krishna, please give me this. You see this in the life of Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But most children, they just go to their parents. They say, Mommy, Daddy, please give this. Because they have greater faith in their parents than they have in Krishna. In the same way, because we have no faith in Krishna, we think that God is dead, or God is not there, or God is not there to reciprocate with us. People turn to the demigods, which is actually very odd, because if, let's say, we have this is Krishna's analogy, so that's why I'm using it. If we have a huge lake, Michigan Lake, filled with fresh water, why will we go and try to find water in the puddle in the middle of the road? Why would we try to get our drinking water from a puddle in the middle of the road if we have a whole reservoir of water? In the same way, Krishna is the cause of all causes. He's the most powerful. He is there to fulfill our desires. Why should we go to a demigod? But some people do. Many people turn to higher forces to fulfill their needs for relief, knowledge, opulence, etc. But not all of them surrender directly to Krishna. Some turn to demigods, others to the impersonal Brahman. Persons controlled by material desires often surrender to demigods. However, it is Krishna who supplies both the faith offered by the worshipper and the reward granted by the demigod. So even if we go to someone material, Krishna says they worship actually me alone, because they don't realize that even the demigod has its power because Krishna is providing it. And even the person who is offering worship to the demigod is doing so because Krishna has supplied the intelligence and the faith for them to do this. You can say, well, Krishna supplied the faith, and how is it their decision or their fault? No, it is still our choice. But, when their mind is not pure, right, and they want to do something which they know they really shouldn't do, or is for their own benefit, then they'll find indications to confirm that what they're doing, they should really do. Right? We were just listening a few days ago to His Holiness Radha Govind Maharaj's narration of the Ramayana. Not narration, his classes, his katha on the Ramayana. And he was saying how when mantra comes to deviate her mind, to manipulate Kaikai into doing this really wrong thing, then she's giving all these reasons, and then Kaikai thinks, wow, maybe what mantra is saying is true. And you know why it's true? Because my left eye flickers, which I think it was left. I forget the left or right, but that's a sign that something inauspicious is about to happen. So at that time, Lord Ram the announcement had gone that Lord Ram would be coronated as the Prince of Ayodhya, the next king. And the king of Ayodhya, right? He was already a prince. Because Dashrath was retiring and wanting to make Lord Ram the next king. And so she thought, just see, this is confirmation. Because ever since that news came, my left eye is flickering. So that means something inauspicious is about to happen. It must be that Lord Ram's becoming king is inauspicious for me and my son Bharat. And that's why mantra is coming here. Now, left eye is flickering means something inauspicious is happening. But what is inauspicious that the eye is not telling her? In fact, something inauspicious was going to happen because she was going to make the decision, the very selfish decision of banishing Lord Ram to the forest for 14 years, which ends up, she loses her husband. She loses the king, Dashrath. She loses even her own son, Bharat. He forsakes her. He says, you are not my mother. He himself, Bharat, takes the life of an ascetic. The whole Ayodhya is drowned in an ocean of lamentation because Lord Ram has left them. So in fact, many inauspicious things happen, and her eye was right. The sign was right. But because she had the desire to be envious and selfish in this way, this increased her faith. And who supplied it? It was none other than Krishna. When we have the wrong desire, then Krishna, as the super soul within our heart, may give us the confirmation that we are looking for, so that we can feel justified in doing what we want to do. Of course, by the result, we learn that no, this was the wrong thing. We get the wrong thing. So in the same way, when it's said here that Krishna supplies the faith, we know in our heart we should worship God. We should not worship some demigods. We should not even aspire for material things. But we have this material desire, and to confirm that, Krishna will give us sometimes faith that this was very important. And even the reward that the demigod is granting, they are not creating. They're not creators. They're simply taking what is Krishna's and giving it to the person who's worshiping them. They're not giving what is theirs. They're giving what is Krishna's to us. So everything is actually being done only by Krishna. But what is the mistake? avidipurvakam. They're doing so in the wrong way, without recognizing Krishna as the source and the supreme controller and the actual benefactor of all living beings. A living entity goes to the demigods, usually because he is mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity, and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. So, when we really want something, we know it's not good for us, or we know that Krishna's going to give me something that right now I don't think I want, which is real happiness, spiritual happiness, then we surrender to a demigod, so the demigod can fulfill our desire, the devious desire. Just like Ravana, that's of course the extreme example. Hiranyakashipu, they all went to Lord Brahma because they knew that Krishna wouldn't fulfill the desire that they had to be lords and controllers of this world. So Krishna now tells the result of what happens when those who surrender to the demigods surrender to the demigods. He just told the result of what happens when people who surrender to him, what happens to them. Now to those who surrender to the demigods. Not knowing this, less intelligent demigod worshippers ignore Krishna and thus achieve only temporary material rewards, whereas Krishna's devotees achieve unlimited, eternal bliss in his association. So, as we sow, so shall we reap. When we are worshiping people who are temporary, who are not eternal, they are eternal, but their posts are not eternal, their bodies are not eternal, their power and their position is not eternal, then what we get is also temporary. As wonderful as it seems, it's temporary. And those who worship Krishna, they receive eternal benefits. So why would one choose to worship anyone other than Krishna? Demigod worshippers are, as I mentioned, alpamedasa. They are small, of small intelligence. Alpa means little. Medasa means intelligence. They have little intelligence. Now, when we talk about it, it's obvious, right? You know, if someone can give you an eternal benefit, right? They can give you something that will eternally give you money. Then why will you go to someone who will give you something that only gives you money for 5 seconds? That's how long our life is in comparison to eternity. So it is foolish. And that's what Krishna is saying. Those who worship the demigods, they are of the nature of alpamedasa, of little intelligence, small intelligence. They cannot see beyond their immediate problem. As I gave the example last time, maybe I think it was in this class, where the lady is in the forest. She's an elderly lady, and she's very poor, and she sustains herself by cutting wood in the forest. So she's in the forest, and every day, she's getting older and older. So one day she cuts all these pieces of wood, and she would sustain her life by cutting wood in the forest and selling it in the city. Very simple. So one day she cuts it and then finally ties it all together. Somehow she puts it on top of her head. And when she puts it on her head, she leans back a little bit and it falls over. And it falls over all the wood, it's bundled together before it unbundles and is strewn everywhere. And then she, with her hearts, from the depths of her heart, she calls out, "Oh, Krishna, please help me." And she calls Krishna with so much sincerity. I mean, elderly lady, alone, trying to support herself. She cannot work anymore. This is the only way she can find food. She's with so much devotion calling out to Krishna. Krishna hears her and comes in front of her. And when Krishna comes in front of her, he asks her, "What can I do for you?" And she says, "Oh, my Lord, please just do one thing for me. Please tie all this wood up and put it back on my head. Bundle it up and just put it back on my head." And Krishna smiles, and in 2 seconds, he bundles it up, puts it on her head, and off she goes. She recognizes that Krishna is there. She could have asked him that, please give me a spiritual form that never gets old. Please, give me a flying airship, a flower airship that I fly around the sky in a palace. But she doesn't ask that. She says, please put this wood back on my head. And when we worship the demigods, that's exactly what we are doing. We have some problem, which is, I need to pass this exam, or I need to get this shop going, and the shop will give us so much anxiety and stress. So we worship the demigod to get that solved so that we can have more stress on our head. I remember when I did my master's in England from Oxford University. It was very hard there. It was like very competitive. Famous school, very intelligent kids. So you have to compete with smart people. So there was a slight chance that I wouldn't score high enough to get into the PhD program. Like in order to get into the PhD program, you had to not just pass, but get like a distinction. And if you don't get it, you could still do your PhD, but you have to go to some other university. You have to find something. So there's, a good chance, because I'm not so bright. Those of you who know me know that I would not have gotten in. So I remember that time, praying to Krishna, oh, please, Krishna, this would be so embarrassing if I don't, if I get thrown out of here now after the master's, please let me pass this exam. Let me pass this exam with distinction so I can get into the PhD program. So I did end up, by Krishna's mercy, barely. There's 3 papers. You needed a minimum of 1 distinction. So I got 1 distinction, not all, just barely. I got in, and I was so happy. I was just rejoicing. And then afterwards, like 3 or 4 years later, I was thinking, oh my gosh, it would have been so nice if I hadn't passed. And after my master's, I would have gone back home, because the PhD was twice as worse as the master's. It was so much hard work, never ending. It took me 6 years to finish it. Like my whole youth went into doing that 1 PhD just so I could get 3 letters behind my name. All for what? Right? I was praying to Krishna, oh, please let me pass this exam so I can get into this false state of prestige that I was imagining. And praying to Krishna like that elderly lady, please put this sticks back on my head. And I got it. And after that, I was thinking, what did I pray for? Actually, if I hadn't gotten in, I would still gotten a master's from Oxford. Who would have known that I wanted to do a PhD? I just, people go for a master's. I would have gotten a master's and maybe, done a lot of fun for 6 years. So in material life, when we pray for something material, we are alpamedasam. And all of us are, so there's nothing wrong with that. But we should know that we are alpamedasam when we pray for something material, because we are praying for a headache. That's what we are praying for. We are praying for a bundle of sticks to be placed on our head so we can have more burdens. We can have more problems. We can have more anxieties. But when we pray for Krishna, when we pray for something spiritual, then there's no more pain. There's no anxiety. Then that is eternal benefit. That is the beginning of our true happiness. That is the beginning of eternal life. So here we see Lord Shiva, he's instructing the Prachetas, who are the sons of kings of the whole world, of the whole universe, actually. And they have the whole kingdom to them. I mean, they're the kids of the king. But he's so powerful, he's instructing them about spiritual knowledge. And in doing so, he makes them realize, though they have everything that a person would want, he makes them realize that all you want, actually, the thing that you really want, is Krishna. You want that which is even beyond these kingdoms and power and money. And by his influence, they understand this. They deeply realize it. They perform austerities for 1,000 years. And after that, they become self-realized. And once they become self-realized, they have no desire to become kings. They have no desire to do anything material. Their only desire is spiritual knowledge and spiritual upliftment. And that is the effect of true knowledge. Not small knowledge, not small intelligence, but real intelligence. Srila Prabhupada's mood of joy and appreciation. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. His favor is unlimited. His mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon his pure devotees is unlimited. Wow, look at this. Prabhupada's every sentence is like a Magna Carta. A Magna Carta means like the final statement, the most wonderful, that's the theme line or whatever. Every sentence is like that. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. His favor is unlimited. His mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon his pure devotees is unlimited. I mean, all we have to do is become Krishna's devotee, and we get unlimited pleasure, unlimited joy, unlimited happiness. In the beginning actually feels that way. In the middle, it sometimes doesn't feel that way. In the beginning, it feels that way. We immediately get a wave of Krishna's mercy. Because finally the soul is turned to Krishna. Krishna is so happy. He wants to encourage the soul. But then after that, he starts to test us and purify us. So in the middle, it doesn't feel that way. But once, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, once we go through that stage, or as we are going through that stage, we start to realize that actually how wonderful, blissful, and unlimited Krishna's mercy is. And this process of devotional service, which is the manifestation of his mercy, how wonderful it is. There's nothing more wonderful, nothing greater than what anyone can achieve. Text 24, those who worship the impersonal Brahman. So some people worship the demigods. Then there's others who get yet another, creative idea, another speculation. Well, let's worship the light. Let's worship just the light coming out of God. Forget about God. Just worship the light. It's like Prabhupada gives the example. The train comes to the train station. The impersonalist is like someone. When the train comes, they just get dazzled by the light in front of the train. The train had this big light in front. It's like this massive torch. Looks very cool. And they just start to look at the light and they're mesmerized by the light. And they're like, wow, let's measure how many watts this is and what's the color of that light. And look at how shiny it is and how bright it shines. And it's all about the light. They forget about the train. They forget about who they're trying to pick up there on the station. And there they are, all dazzled by the light. The unintelligent think impersonal Brahman is supreme. They imagine Krishna's form and pastimes to be temporary manifestations of Brahman in contact with the material modes. So they too, Krishna says, are unintelligent. They just think about the impersonal aspect. They don't know Janma Karma Chame Divyam. Evam Yoveti Tatvata. They don't realize Krishna's Janma and Karma. They don't know about Krishna's divine Divyam activities and appearance. And that's why, because most people are entangled in demigod worship or impersonal Brahman worship, Krishna says that one who actually understands me isn't even a pure devotee, but just knows about my appearance and activities, such a person comes to me. Because such people are so rare in this world, you see. I mean, you go to Tibet and parts of India, and you see, so in America, so many Buddhists there, so many Buddhists. None of them worship a god. A few do, they believe Buddha to be God, but most of them it's about, emptiness and nirvana and this and that. Then you have all of these Hindus who are worshiping demigods and the Mayavadis. And then you have most Christians, they believe that God is formless, unfortunately. Though they believe, Jesus Christ is God, but if you ask them, they say God is, the light. They don't actually relate with God like a person. they do as Jesus Christ, but they feel still the ultimate form or reality of God is impersonal. Many Christians do, and this might have been my experience. Muslims say that you can't access the form of God. They're completely against any idea or depiction of the form of God. So imagine there's only a small sliver of people who actually have an understanding that God is a person and know his pastimes and understand that his pastimes are 100% divine, right? There's many people in India who know that Lord Ram, who know the Ramayana and they know about Ram's pastimes. But even most among them will say that Ram is a human with perfect mind, body, focus. This is what one nice Hindu man was explaining to me. See, Lord Ram had perfect mind-body balance, and because he was really good at yoga, like he was like a real a good magician, yogi, something like that. That's why people, he was so effective. But he didn't accept Ram as God. He was a manifestation at very best of God in human form, but he wasn't God himself. So to be actually a devotee is so rare. That's the point. To be a bhakti yogi, a devotee, is so rare. And that's why they're so dear to Krishna. That's why Krishna says, if you just know this, you get liberation. Fully realize this, meaning know this means you understand this deeply in your heart. So then we have text 25 to 30. So given this knowledge, Krishna helps us in overcoming the inability to recognize and serve Krishna. See, the problem is not that Krishna is not there. The problem is that even if Krishna came before us, we would not be able to recognize him. When Krishna was walking on this planet, millions of people saw him, but only a handful actually could recognize that Krishna is God. So, how do we recognize him? If it is true that Krishna's form and pastimes are eternal, why aren't they always visible to everyone? Krishna then answers this in this chapter. I hide myself by my Maya from the foolish and unintelligent. Avajananti mam mudha manusham tam tanmashratam. The fools think that I can be covered by Maya. I can never be covered. I am always fully cognizant of everything, past, present, and future. I cover them. Therefore, they cannot know me. Param bhavam ajananto. Right? They don't understand my divine param bhavam, highest nature, ajananto. They don't know. Janati means to know. Ajanati means they do not know. They do not know that I don't become covered by Maya. So this is Krishna telling us that the foolish and unintelligent cannot know him because Krishna doesn't reveal himself to them. It's not that he is not there, but he will not reveal himself because we are not surrendering to him. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of the Kurus, when Shishupal spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported Krishna and proclaimed him to be the supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the supreme, but not everyone. You see, that's why they challenged him in battle and all these things, because, if all the soldiers, there's 600 million soldiers in Kurukshetra battle, if they knew that Krishna is God, who would fight? Right? We'd be like, well, I'm fighting on this side. On the other side, there's God. and he's sitting on the chariot on the other side. Who would fight? I mean, especially a culture, this was 5,000 years ago, that was so devout. Everyone believed in God, had faith in God, except for a few demons like Duryodhana. Everyone was very, very devout. Even the demons had some idea of God, they had spiritual knowledge. Who would fight in such a battle? But they fought because they didn't know that on Arjuna's chariot, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme God is sitting. They thought the king of Dwarka is sitting there. And so that's why they dared to fight. And how do they become covered and when? Krishna answers that as well. We ask this, why am I covered? It was so nice if it wasn't in this illusion, right? Krishna says, from the very beginning, their desire and hate cause them to become bewildered by duality. Their desire and hate, right? Ichha dvesha. This is the reason we come to this material world. This is the reason why we stay in the material world. This is the reason why we don't get out of the material world. And giving up these two things will be the reason why we get relief or emancipation from this world. And that is ichha, material desires. And when those are not satisfied or someone has something that we want, then hate, dvesha. In the spiritual world, we're with Krishna, but then we get ichha and dvesha. Oh, why is Krishna the center of the rasa dance? I should be there. Therefore, let me try to compete with Krishna. That is the dvesha, envy. So when we become envious of Krishna, then we come to this material world. That is the beginning of our fall down. Why do we have that desire? Because we have free will and free choice. There's nothing lacking in us or in the spiritual world or anything, but we do have freedom. And this is the freedom. This is the only thing that we can exercise, is we have the choice to love Krishna or we have the choice to be averse to him. So it is that ichha and dvesha that bring us to this world. If we give up that, life becomes so simple. If we give up hating anyone and everyone, we are not averse to anyone or everyone, and we give up material desires that are very difficult to fulfill, then life is very peaceful. There's no problems. If our desire is only to surrender to Krishna and serve Krishna, whatever comes our way, we will be able to handle it. This is the verse Srila Prabhupada would quote when he was asked how the soul enters material life. It's a very nice verse. You can memorize it. Ichha dvesha. How can they remove this bewilderment and come to recognize Krishna as the Supreme? One can become free from the delusion of duality by ceasing to act according to desire and hate, behaving religiously, and thus eradicating his sinful reactions. Then they can serve Krishna with full determination. So by ceasing to act according to ichha and dvesha, then we can serve Krishna with full determination. What breaks our determination is desire and hate. Oh, there's some problem. I don't like this person. So then we give up our Krishna consciousness. But we should never give up our Krishna consciousness. We should never give up the association of devotees, because we should give up desire and hate. And when we give up that, then we don't have to give up the association. Of course, in this world, even Rupa Goswami says that there are different standards of devotees. So we must discriminate. And he says we must discriminate which standard of devotee we want to associate with. What level of devotee? The Kanishta, the Madhyama, or the Uttamadhikari devotee. But that's not hatred. That's like, okay, I'll accept this association. I'll accept the good association if I have it. If not, I'll make the best of the association that I have. So that is our determination. And the devotee may make distinctions, but not out of hatred. The devotee is very sharp. It's not that the devotee just accepts anything and everything that comes his way. They do discriminate between good and bad, but not out of hate, out of service to Krishna. Right. So how can this be reconciled, right? So these are two verses in the Gita, and now we have to reflect on how can they be reconciled. So we have chapter 7, text 28. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. And then he says in chapter 4, text 36, or prior to this, he says, even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. So here it's being said that even if you're the most sinful, if you become a bhakta, that is a bhakta jnani, someone who knows about Krishna, then you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. And in the previous one, it says, only those whose sinful life is completely eradicated, who are pure, they can engage in my devotional service with determination. So how do we reconcile this? Krishna is saying, one hand, you must be pure to engage in Krishna's service. On the other one, saying, no, just cross over with the boat of knowledge. Anyone want to suggest a solution, a way to reconcile these two statements in the Gita?
Prabhu, I can give a try.
Yes, please.
So one who has a knowledge that the transcendental knowledge that we are the soul, not the body,
Mm.
and there's only one supreme Lord, the
Mhm.
absolute truth. So when we have this knowledge, we start working towards it. Like we start chanting,
Mm.
and then the connection establishes, and then slowly, the seva starts and sadhu sangha, and as the anarth nivrati starts eradicates uh, from our daily activities, and that's how we can start. So that is the simplest way I can explain.
Very good. So you're saying that, look, Krishna in chapter 4 is saying that we are able to cross over the ocean of miseries. That means we are beginning on that journey. But we come to this stage once we are more purified on that journey, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with that. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
Then we accept Guru as well, the
Mm.
shelter, and then our boat rocks.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So when we have the spiritual master as the guide, the captain, then like Prabhupada, right? He's there as a captain, and it really smooths, it glides forward smoothly, very nicely. So uh, here Krishna then goes on to say, sometimes due to intelligence, one desires to be freed from old age and death, and therefore takes refuge in Krishna's service. He can also get free from bewilderment and become a devotee. Those who thus surrender to Krishna can know him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the difficult time of death. Yes. So just like Sucharu Radharani Mataji was saying, that those who surrender to Krishna, right, due to even some external reason, right, that they're just a fear of not of wanting to avoid old age and death, not because they want to, serve Krishna per se, but just to avoid the fear of old age and death. Even such persons get free from bewilderment because they have started and they're moving forward on this wonderful process. Mayuri, did you want to add something? I think you unmuted yourself. Anyone else want to add something to this?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhuji, seeing this, I was just, thinking about the story which you have said about the woman in the forest collecting all the wood and asking Krishna, right? The thing
Yeah.
is, if we are materially attached in this entire life, and if we want to remember Krishna at that last moment, until, even though we are chanting, we are doing, and if it is all superficial, and if it is uh, if it is being done as ritual, as a ritual, Prabhu, I don't think, we can attain that stage, because, we are materially bonded in that stage. We can never think when Krishna appears to take us. I don't think we can say that, give me liberation. We would only ask about all our, material things.
Yeah.
So,
It's- Yes. So, yes, Mataji, what you are saying is correct. But at the same time, this is the magic of bhakti and the bhakti yoga process, that if we take to this process, we will only want Krishna. And Prabhupada says we cannot realize how it happens, but imperceptibly, the process works and our heart gets purified. So we can, if we become purified. Yes, right now we won't. And it's a very nice mood to have, like you're saying, to always feel incapable, insufficient to surrender fully to Krishna. But one who has gotten a taste of spiritual life and also a taste of material life knows that no, this is all I want is Krishna. I don't want anything of this material world. If I want it, I only want it for Krishna's service, not for my service. Very nice. So I just finished this. This is actually the end here. That those who thus surrender to Krishna can know him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the difficult time of death. So the biggest challenge that we have in front of us is death, right? That is the final test. That is something that we don't need faith to believe in. As sure as death, we can see it by observation. That is actually the greatest fear that we have in the back of our minds, that we are going to die. So even at that time, we will be protected. Krishna is saying, just surrender unto me. How many times in the Gita he says this, right? We all say, oh, the most famous verse of the Gita is, oh, the final conclusion is 1866. He says it in every chapter. He's telling the reader, he's telling Arjuna, just surrender to me. Those who surrender unto me, they can cross over this material world. Those who surrender unto me, they can attain all knowledge. Those who surrender unto me, they get all good fortune. Again and again, he's telling us surrender. But that's the one thing we're not able to do, or the part that we always skip, because that's the easiest thing to do and therefore the hardest thing to do for us. It's the easiest thing because it's so easy, it solves all of our troubles, but it's the hardest thing because we can give up everything except for our ego, right? Our false ego. And if we can do that, then Krishna protects us at every moment, including the time of death. So this is the summary here. These are the chapter sections that we covered in the last 2 weeks, this one and the previous one. The first 3 verses were about knowing Krishna by hearing about him. Then 4 to 12 was knowing Krishna's material and spiritual energies. Remember, he told us about his material energy, his spiritual energy. Then 13 to 14, Krishna controls the modes of nature. He explains what the modes are. These are our biggest challenges in this world, especially rajas and tamas. So therefore, surrender, Krishna says, surrender to me. And then text 15 to 19, the impious never surrender, the pious do. And then from 20 to 25, some surrender to the demigods and impersonalism. So we talked about the 4 people who surrender and 4 people who don't. And then we talk about people who surrender, but they surrender to the wrong people, the demigods, or to the light, the impersonalism. And we saw the result of that, or the insufficiency of that. And finally, in the final section, he talks about bewilderment and freedom by knowing Krishna. And that is the conclusion of this chapter. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay.
Jai.
Thank you, Ajay. So I saw Anuja Gupta, Anuja Mataji, she raised her hand. You were going to say something. You can start first, then we'll take more.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you so much. I was just reflecting, I had read somewhere about that the impious, the sinful activities verses that we were contrasting. And as Suchari Radha Mataji rightly said, the first verse is who comes to bhakti. And you know, the Navadha bhakti starts with Shraddha. But is there a stage before Shraddha, which is someone who's collecting unknowingly credits to get that faith? And that is, I think, called Agyat Sukriti. And
Yes.
when they collect enough, and then they get to the point where they start developing some faith, then they meet a devotee somewhere and get the Bhakti Lata Bij. Whereas the other stage that we were talking about in in chapter number 4.36, that was for someone who is struggling sadhaka. And in that stage, when we still have shortcomings, we know what is the right thing to do as a Vaidhi sadhaka, but we still falter. And Krishna says that, you know, they are still apichet sudacharo bhajate mam ananya bhag. So they are still Mahatmas. So just was thinking, could that be a possible reason?
Yes. So Agyata Sukriti leads to faith, but faith also leads to Agyata Sukriti. So, you know, someone has some faith in pious people and God, and so they come and offer some service, not realizing the result, the wonderful result they'll get of that service. They, you know, I should be a good person, a godly person. The Hare Krishnas are, you know, distributing food. Let me go and, you know, help in their food distribution thing. So to do something that is a Gyata Sukriti requires generally some faith, some choice. Of course, sometimes it's just completely just good fortune, like the rat who was, the example is given of Gyata Sukriti, that there's a rat that was climbing on the altar, you know, crawling around the altar, and his tail happens to hit the ghee lamp. And because it goes into the fire, it causes the fire to burn more brightly for a few seconds. And because he offered that service to Krishna in his next life, as a result of that burn, the rat dies, and in his next life he becomes a nice devotee of Krishna. So that was his Agyata Sukriti, which led to this. And there's, you know, really no fate there, just good luck. So that happens. But generally speaking, it is due to our Krishna consciousness, our some degree of Krishna consciousness, that we're attracted to devotees and we do Agyata Sukriti. So that is also there. So that's part one. What was part two of your question? I can't remember now.
Now I was just contrasting the two verses that we talked about. So the second one was where the sinful reactions or the sinful activities, even though someone is sinful, as the 436 verse said, they are still considered great souls. And what was the reason for that? And that was probably in the stage of when we are already practicing sadhakas, and as we struggle and as we falter, Krishna says that they still have the faith to carry on.
Yes.
And probably that is the reason for that contrast that we read about.
Yes, and he says that in a few places, right? Apichit suduracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak. Because such people are rightly situated. They're making mistakes, but that making of mistakes is part of the process. Out of the blue, some desire, anartha comes out that we're like, this can't be me, but it is me. And they're trying to fulfill that desire in their devotional service. They have some greed or something through their devotional service. They're trying to do that, but because they're devotees and they're striving, very soon they'll get purified. Part of the purification is that they'll get a reaction for that, or they'll get pushback on that. But so part of the thing is that, well, we may need to push back, if they're trying to fulfill their greed through their devotional service, and let's say they're stealing money from the temple, they may need to be, disciplined. They will be disciplined, but that disciplining and the reaction is part of their bhakti process. So then they'll get purified of that, and then one should not criticize them for what they have done in the past, or even what they're doing in the present, because we know that they will get purified in due course of time.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for clarifying that. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice point. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Bhavya, and then Lavanya Mataji after that. Bhavya.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for your wonderful class. So I had two questions. So the first question was regarding the four categories of people who do not surrender to Krishna. So the fourth category is defined as those who are openly atheistic. So I was wondering about this in kind of the modern context. I feel like rather than envy of God, a lot of people in the modern day have turned atheistic because they feel like there are so many atrocities happening in this world, and a just God would not have allowed for that. So a lot of people lose faith because of that. So I was wondering, what category would such a person fit into?
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing, and all those flavors are covered in the four categories. So such people could be also Maya Parithagyana. These people are very highly educated. They're scholars of religion, but they find arguments in their scholarship of religion to deny or dismiss the existence of God. And the biggest argument, you're absolutely correct, is called the problem of evil and suffering. That they say, well, one good reason not to believe in God is that there's so much suffering in this world. And we have a loving God who's all powerful and all good. If such a God exists, then they would certainly stop the suffering in this world. And they use that argument to try to deny the existence of God. Of course, what they miss out is that their logic is not complete. Yes, there's a God who's all powerful and all merciful, but that all powerful and all merciful God may allow us to suffer temporarily because he is all merciful and all powerful for our benefit, not for his benefit, but for our benefit. So like this, they'll bring up false arguments to either fight against the existence of God or dismiss. Some people, another argument that I've read, it's very common studied, is called divine hiddenness. They say, if there's a child and they're crying out, "Mom, Mom," and the mother is not responding, then one can infer that, well, obviously the mother's not there. That's why she's not responding to the child. And so, given that we call out, "Oh God, please help me, please save me," and God doesn't come to help us, obviously means that God is not there. And that's called the argument of divine hiddenness. He's not there, so I have no reason to believe that he's there. But even that is a flawed logic. Just today, the kids were calling for mom, and mom was not responding. Because it's, sometimes to teach them good manners or discipline or responsibility, the mother may not respond. So Krishna, we're not the best of the bunch. We've come to this material world to be enjoyers. So Krishna lets us be on our own so that we can see the result of leaving or forgetting God. But when we truly call out for him, he is there. So even that logic is assuming they didn't feel the existence of God or presence of God because they're averse to him. But those who have called out to Krishna with deep earnestness have always felt his presence. He never neglects or turns away from his devotee. So yes, so these arguments are given by the different types of unbelievers.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. And then the second question I had was with regard to demigod worship. You probably had this question from people a lot. So, like even if somebody has stumbled upon Krishna consciousness by, some grace, Krishna's grace, a devotee's mercy, if they've been conditioned from their childhood to worship different demigods, to do different vrats, to, achieve different things, I feel like they struggle to kind of come away from that. And especially, in our own families, our mothers or fathers, they're used to doing those things. So even when they do worship Krishna, they still continue to do these other vrats and other practices and suggest that we should do it too. So I was wondering, how do you approach that situation? Because you don't want to hurt them.
Yes.
But at the same time, you feel such a conflict doing something that you clearly know is not the right approach. So I was wondering what's the correct way to approach that situation.
Yes, nice question. So sometimes family traditions need to be observed, right? Just like we know that birthday is not something really to be excited about. It's 1 year closer to death, etc., all these things. But still, we celebrate people's birthdays. So in the same way, there may be certain traditions, family traditions that we participate in. But our faith should not be there. Our faith should be in the Mahamantra and service to Krishna, and we should share and express that faith to others. In others, we should not force it on them, but we should permeate that faith. That faith permeates, right? So functionally, externally, we have to participate sometimes in things that aren't really, meaningful to us. But if we have firm faith in Krishna, that Krishna is everything, nothing more is needed outside of this process of bhakti yoga, of Krishna consciousness, then that faith will permeate amongst others. Just like Prabhupada told us that we sometimes do yajnas. Though in this day and age, these fire sacrifices are not the primary process of this age, but we do it for our benefit, and also others also feel, this, and, people don't criticize ISKCON that, well, they don't do any yajnas, etc. But our faith is in the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. So we know that is the Sankirtan Yajna, the Yajnanam Japa Yajñosmi, the best of all yajnas. So whatever else is going on, yajna is going, all these things, but we are never stopping the chanting of Krishna's holy names. Kirtan should always be going on. And you'll see that's like good devotees, there'll be some yajna, the priest is saying, and then immediately after they will like, start the kirtan again, start the kirtan again. Because Prabhupada showed this by his example. He had the most faith in the Sankirtan Yajna, in the chanting of Krishna's holy names. And so, sure, they're doing their ritual, but then you can insist that we will sit down and together we will sing and chant, after that, do some kirtan together. Or while the ritual is going on, you can chant. So we can apply the essence, the ultimate principle, when we are properly situated in our own Krishna consciousness. We can apply that in every circumstance, so that others become moved by our conviction and devotion, and they also start to reflect, start to wonder, well, what's about this mantra that is so attractive.
Thank you, Prabhu. So basically, honor the family traditions while still, just to, I guess keep your, elders happy, but I'll always keep Krishna in the center,
Yes.
even while as you do that. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Prabhu.
Yes, and honoring the family tradition doesn't mean that we have to do it. Like if we're in America and our family's not here or something, then we don't have to keep up those same traditions. We now have too many festivals already in Krishna consciousness. We're trying to observe all those festivals. Now Ram Navami is coming up. We just had Gaur Purnima. And so we are completely busy. But to your point, sometimes when you go home and they insist this and that, then we can, we can smile, and at least it's good. They're involved in something spiritual, but we can take that as an opportunity to share Krishna consciousness with them. Like, okay, they'll have a spiritual function, so then it gives an opportunity that, well, we can talk about Krishna because they're the ones who brought the topic up of spirituality. So yes, so they can become opportunities.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Lavanya Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
The question which Bhavya Mataji just asked was, the same situation, because we are the first people in our families, to be in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So, I think all her question was like indirectly, I was having, I think you must be knowing, so many times I had this discussion with you and Mataji as well. Yeah.
Yes.
How to go about to avoid the conflict with the
Yes.
family.
Family.
Yes,
Yes.
Prabhu. This apart, actually, I was just thinking, every day, when I just go in front of the Radha Shyam Sundar pictures, to offer my, obeisances, I have this deep urge, Prabhu, to seek this desire that, I should seek Radha Shyam Sundar, that, that I need, a peaceful and please bless us with peaceful and anxiety-free Krishna consciousness. So which indirectly means that, in future my son is admitted into good college, my daughter is settled well, she finds a good job, and ultimately why should I even do this? Because why should I even seek peaceful?
Yes.
Does it even matter how the children settle, when you are in Krishna consciousness and we have his blessings? So I was just thinking, how to but again, I have so many thoughts in those few seconds that, but even these thoughts are about Krishna and Radharani.
Yes.
So maybe even this is a devotional service. Let me ask or let me not ask. But, these thoughts are also a part of, thinking about Krishna. So
Yes.
is that okay, Prabhu? Every day I keep thinking like that.
Yes. The gopis, they would also go to Krishna. Um, if anything was a problem in their life, Mother Yashoda, so the residents of Vrindavan were also going. When Govardhan Hill, when Indra is trying to inundate them, they're running to Krishna. Please protect me. Please take care of our children, our cows, our calves. They're concerned about their family. And there's one purport of Srila Prabhupada which says that Swayambhuva Manu loved his daughter, Devahuti, and he says, just as a father should love his daughter, right? And a mother should love her daughter, and a mother should love her son, etc., etc. So these feelings of affection are natural. But when we go to Krishna, asking him, please bless them, please shower your grace on them, it's not necessarily a material desire. It becomes a material desire based on what we're asking him for. Right? When we are convinced that spiritual life is the most valuable thing in our life, there's nothing more valuable in this world than Krishna consciousness, then we will pray to Krishna to bestow them with that very thing, right? Then we will ask Krishna for Krishna consciousness for our children, first and foremost, right? And then we may also say, please allow them to be, well educated so that they can help preach Krishna consciousness, so that they can serve you peacefully. Obviously, if they're educated, they have a nice job, they can serve Krishna peacefully, right? So it is the content of the prayer that makes it material. It's not that you're praying to him for your family is by itself material. It's actually our duty, Bhagavatam says, to liberate our dependence. It's our duty to Krishna, our service to Krishna to do so. So if we're asking him that please let me fulfill my service to you by making them into nice devotees, that's not a material desire. But yes, if we are asking them that please make my son become the next spelling bee, which you're not, then that is a material desire to some degree. Yes.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, but that is a very nice question and point that you're raising, because it's very natural for us. We should not deny those feelings in us. It's
Yeah, yes,
natural
Prabhu.
for
That's what.
us
Yeah.
to
Mm.
want good for our family, especially our children. And all Krishna is saying is we should recognize what is the good, what is the ultimate benefit.
Yes. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Indira, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I was actually, yeah, I actually really liked Bhavya Mataji's question, and I also really resonated with your answer. Also, like the first question she asked about someone who, someone who says that God, like if God existed, bad things wouldn't happen. Like,
Mm,
but I do feel like there's also like another side to this. This is just my feeling, this is just my opinion, that if there is someone who actually has that question, like genuinely they have that question, why does why does like God let bad things happen? I feel like they're kind of already a little advanced, like they're already like an intelligent person, because it's like inherent in that question is they kind of already are assuming that God is the supreme controller, that Krishna is the supreme controller. And if something happens, it's because of him. And so if
mm,
someone genuinely has that question, why did he do that? It's like they genuinely have this question and they're trying to understand. That's like you're kind of trying to understand Krishna in a way, which is like such a great thing that you're trying to understand God, you're trying to understand him. That's like such an incredible pursuit. And it's so frustrating when there's someone with this genuine question, they approach someone and they use that as an opportunity to turn them against God. Like what could be a beautiful pursuit is like now, like atheism, that is so unfortunate. That's so
yeah.
unfortunate.
And such a nice point that you're raising, because it's the same thing. One is to think about the problem of evil, but it's the same thing with suffering in general, right? It's the same thing with the actual experience, that how the experience of suffering can be something so wonderful, because it becomes the most special catalyst or time in our life when we can surrender to Krishna.
Yeah.
Right? Through suffering, we can take refuge in Krishna, and Krishna uplifts us at that time when we take refuge in Him. But our own material consciousness or influence of others, or material consciousness, flips it around and says, "Oh, I'm suffering, therefore become an atheist. Therefore, God doesn't exist because He's making me suffer." Right?
Mm.
So that's the misapplication, the misunderstanding of something that should not be misunderstood in that way.
Mm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I also had another question now, and I was just thinking about it today, and you
Yeah.
also brought it up. I was just thinking about it today.
Mm,
How you mentioned that we should give up false ego,
mm,
and that's something that we hear is so important, right? Right? Like no false ego. False ego is bad. But
mm,
I think maybe I'm wrong. But I
mm.
think I remember reading somewhere that mind, intelligence, and false ego are like they're part of the subtle body. And so
Ah,
I was wondering how we can give that up when that's like, wouldn't it be like if we want to give up false ego, it's like we can't give up our mind, we can't give up our intelligence. So how can we give up our like false ego?
mm. So we cannot, that's why Prabhupada said we have to transform false ego to real ego. You see? So we have an ego. I am a servant of Krishna, which is a big ego, because, like, if I told you, of course, now it's not so prestigious, but I tell you, I'm the servant of the president. You're like, wow, he's number two. The president is number one. He's number two. He's like the confidant of the president. So that's pretty, you know, that's pretty egotistical of me to, let's say, tell everyone that. So we are also very egotistical. We're saying, I'm a servant of God. I mean, like if someone here, which in our movement people have, but someone here has a direct connection with God, they'll be very popular, right? You'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, got to be next to this person. They have a direct connection with God. Whatever I want can be fulfilled. So we are making that assertion. Jivera Sarupa Hoy Nityera Krishna Das. Our eternal Sarupa is we are a servant of Krishna. So the false ego is that I am Krishna. The real ego is I am number two. I am the servant of Krishna. Now, we don't think of ourselves as number two because servant of the servant of the servant 1,000 times removed. But even in that stage, we're still the servant of Krishna. So there is an ego there. It's just not the false ego. It's a purified ego. It's a real ego. Like if the child thinks, I am the father, then that is a false ego. But if he thinks, I'm the son of the father, then that is a real ego. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you have such nice questions because your mother is praying for you. That you're welcome. Yes. So that's the mother-daughter, both of them. You heard them, those of you on the call, one after the other. They are related. So next, Sri Nitai Charan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the wonderful class as always, with a lot of delineation with the pictures.
Thank you.
So Bhagavad Gita, in the introduction, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned the broader purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver the mankind from the existence from the nascence of existence of material existence. I mean, I fumbled the words, but that's the broader objective. But also, you mentioned at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita series that your Guru Maharaj asked you to recite chapter Bhakti Yoga, chapter 12, when you had mishandled some deity or something like that. So
Yes.
coming back to the question, so even though we have a broader perspective, broader objective Bhagavad Gita to deliver the mankind, are there any specific benefit by reciting specific chapters, particularly chapter 7? I've heard like to, for easy path to the departed soul, you recite chapter 7. Is there anything like that, or is there other benefit of specifically the chapter 7?
That's a very good question. There's definitely an answer for it. There's a whole book, Gita Mahatmya, which describes the benefits of each chapter. And there's another book, actually, I'm forgetting the name. It goes in even detail that what liberation each chapter gives. Like you actually become liberated from this and this by reading this chapter. You become surpassed this by reading this chapter. So there is, and I don't know it on the top of my mind. However, Krishna is telling us in the Gita that by studying this conversation, we are worshiping him through our intelligence, right? So by reading the Gita, chapter 7 and subsequent chapters, any chapter of this, we are amassing great spiritual benefit. And that's the main reason why we're doing this. So chapter 12, my Guru Maharaj said, because it's the shortest chapter. But the principle was read a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. If we've done some mistake, then the way to make up, please the Lord, is to read a chapter. Because Krishna is saying, one who does so worships me by his intelligence. But it's a form of worship. Reading the Gita is a direct and very powerful form of worship, which purifies our heart, removes offenses, and makes us a better devotee of Krishna. So there's various ritualistic reasons, but we're not interested in the ritualistic reasons. We're interested in bhakti. And among the process of bhakti, reading Gita is very powerful. It's part of one of the most 5 potent items of devotional service. Gita, Bhagavatam, non-different. So by reading the Gita, we really, make rapid progress. And devotees who read one chapter every day, that you can see, like they're really Krishna conscious, because it's one thing I find is that there's no book that gives you so much in such less time, right? So if you read a chapter of any other book, you may even find things that are more deeper, like in the Bhagavatam, than that which is mentioned in the Gita in terms of more detail. But when you read a chapter of the Gita, it's like all of a sudden, it's like, you cover 100 books in reading one chapter of the Gita, because Krishna has really point by point by point put everything in it. Like we did chapter 7, so amazing, like all these things, and then you read it, all of a sudden you remember, oh, these are Krishna's instructions. I need to remember this. I need to be surrendered to Krishna, his devotee. So that's why he said that, and that's the main benefit. It makes us into Krishna, very dear confidant of Krishna.
Jai Prabhu. Thank you. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. Last question, Ritesh Prabhu. Comment.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam.
Dandot Pranam.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I joined a little late, but I was just wondering, thinking about the point that you mentioned of knowing Krishna even at the time of death. And recently, I read in Bhagavad Gita one of the best ways to know Krishna is to serve him. So through service, we get to understand Krishna. I think that's what was written. And I was thinking the Gajendra Moksha pastime. So this is exactly what happened with Gajendra when he was at the very end, when he was done fighting and he was about to die. He just picked up a flower and offered it to Krishna as a service, and then Krishna came uh, from Dwarka on Garud to save Gajendra. So something that resonated with today's lesson. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, what a nice example. Yes, Gajendra is like our hallmark saint in terms of surrendering to Krishna. And apparently he was asking for something material. Krishna, please save me from the crocodile. But he was calling out to Krishna with utmost sincerity and devotion and love. And Acharyas actually explain us that on the deeper level, he wasn't asking Krishna that please save my body and save me from the crocodile. He was telling Krishna, now I'm done with material life. Please take me out of this material world. And that's why Lord Vishnu comes personally, immediately, and takes him out, because his prayer and desire was so pure. But given that kind of further detail the Acharyas give, the fact is he was begging for protection. And anyone who goes to Krishna for protection is appreciated. Mahatma is appreciated by Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for that. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for adjusting to this different time. And I kind of actually like this evening time. And I'm almost attracted to changing it because the evening seems to be working well for many people. Saturday morning sometimes, not because it's too early for me, but because many of you and I have multiple things going on Saturdays. So a few of you are doing thumbs up. So if you, yeah.
Not a bad idea at all.
You like it also, Vishnu? Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. Why not?
All right. So maybe Krishna, because I've been thinking, but I've been afraid to change it. It's like, when you have something set, to change it is like you don't want to disturb things that are going well already. And so I have been a little afraid to change it, but maybe with this is Krishna's suggestion or arrangement to change it. I had to this time, I was forced to. So it turned out quite well. So yeah, so going forward, we may actually do it in the evening. I will keep you posted. I'll post it on the group, and please keep an eye out for that. Thank you.
Nice. Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Dandot Pranam. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Dandot
Prabhu.
Pranam.